Do you like movies and games also? Listen, so much more, they all know. Vice, Lotus and Friends, welcome to Corrective Consciousness.
Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 167, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I am your delayed host, vysethebold, and this is
Lotus Prince.
some pregnant pauses for our guests today. But yes, we are about to do a wonderful episode here for you based off of the works of Hideo Kojima. We do these from time to time, you know, when a big new entry comes out from one of our favorite auteurs. We did one for Igarashi, which was great when Bloodstained was released, and with the release of Death Stranding on looming here, I wanted to explore his games, especially his more obscure output, just because it's all of his stuff is great. A lot of people have a lot of criticisms against him, but there are plenty of people that are fans. So I am a huge fan of his. I like anybody who dares to do something different. That's why I like Suda51. His games aren't perfect either, but man, like I look forward to that more than any games like that more than anything. Something that's a little bit unusual. And Lotus, you've played a lot of his games as well, right?
Who's Hideo Kojima?
This is a Hideo Kojima podcast.
Oh no! Oh, I am on the wrong week. But I've played a bunch of his. Yeah, I've played Metal Gear Solid 1 through 4, Metal Gear Solid VR missions, Snatcher, Police Knots, and PT. I believe that's my Kojima experience.
Okay, cool. So I definitely want to throw this out there that I have played nearly all of his games, nearly all of them, in some degree or another. So he started off making an MSX game, which is a Japanese standard, mostly Japanese standard of personal computers. They also made them for Europe and barely for the United States, but they were very popular in Japan. He made a game called Antarctic Adventure where you start as a penguin and you're like running around, like it's like behind the character, but he really didn't get going until he released his first MSX Metal Gear game, which is the original Metal Gear. I definitely recommend going back and playing this. They have a modernized port of it on the Metal Gear HD collection with Metal Gear 2 and 3. Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, I should say.
Yes, I believe it's accessible through Metal Gear Solid 3 on the HD collection.
Yeah, it also goes along with the original Metal Gear 2 as well as on there.
Yes, that's because on the PS2, Metal Gear Solid 3 Subsistence came with those games as well.
Yeah, and it's really great that they included those because I do have the NES version of Metal Gear. I played it back in the day when I was a kid, and I just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And that it turns out it's actually kind of reasonable that I didn't understand it because the NES version's really odd.
Well, what's really hard, I think this is true of both NES and MSX, but what's really hard is that there are lots of locked doors in the game, and you just have to learn what keys go to what doors, because they're all labeled like key 1 through 10. So, like, there's one room where, like you can only have one active item at a time. So if you're in a room with toxic gas, then you have to switch your mask off to switch on a key card.
Yeah.
So it's like 1, nope, that wasn't it, I'm freaking dying. 2, nope, that wasn't it, come on. So, like, you really need to, like, write this stuff down or something.
Yeah, for sure, and you're getting hurt while you're switching.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, despite that, the MSX version of the original game is way better than the NES version. I just skipped the NES version.
Well, there's one very obvious reason why it's better.
It actually has Metal Gear in it.
Yep. Sure does.
Yeah, so in the original game, in the NES version of the game, for some reason, probably like some kind of limitation or something, they had you fight a supercomputer.
Yeah, it's just a computer.
Yeah, at the end of the namesake of the game isn't even in it.
Yeah, there's no Metal Gear in Metal Gear. It's amazing.
And the picture, like the drawing of Metal Gear, is on the front cover of the game too. It's bizarre. But yeah, I mean it's cool as a collector's piece. I'm glad I own the cartridge just because it's fun to have. And that art of Snake looking like Michael Biehn from Terminator 1 is pretty cool looking.
Yeah, Kyle Reese.
Yeah. So Michael Biehn's the
actor.
The actor. But it's a cool game, and it can't be stressed that like one of his very earliest games included basically a new concept. I mean, there had been stealth games before that, but not many. I mean, there was the original Wolfenstein before it was Wolfenstein 3D.
That's true, yeah.
Was a bit of a stealth game.
Was it just called like Castle Wolfenstein?
Yeah, it was just called Castle Wolfenstein. And there was a second one too. There was a second game. But I believe they were for the Apple II. It's actually kind of funny. Wolfenstein 3D ended up being like a fan game. Like Wolfenstein 3D actually wasn't officially licensed at the time, but apparently the copyright had run out. So they kind of like took an existing property and made an unofficial sequel to it, and ended up being the official series in the end. But yeah, Metal Gear actually had lengthy gameplay. It was similar to a Zelda game or something like that, but it wasn't completely action based. Instead a lot of times you got punished for taking it to an action spot, unless it was like a boss fight. Boss fights in those games were all action based and all weren't sneaking based. In fact, I really love the boss battles in those games, even in the original MSX games, because they were like there was always a gimmick to fighting the person that you were fighting, and that still carried throughout the whole series. Like there was always
there's a guy who uses a shotgun. There's a guy where the gimmick is there's two of them. They're like androids or something.
Yeah.
There's a guy with the floor opens up and it's like a death pit. It's like there's something going on. One of them, I think, the gimmick is that he's taking a hostage.
There's another one where I think his favorite boss battle, Hideo Kojima said that he's ever done was there's a guy that was just called the Running Man, which harkens back to his like constant reference to pop culture as it's going on. That's of course referencing the novel by Richard Bachman, aka Stephen King, and the movie, the Arnold Schwarzenegger movie at the time, which is probably more likely.
I don't even know how relevant the movie is to the short story.
It's not terribly inaccurate, but it's like the movie's its own thing. Okay. I mean, like it gets the beats right, but like opera singing, bad guy.
That guy was the best.
He's awesome.
Applaud if you love Dynamo.
Well, the cool thing about like the Running Man movie is like you can actually see the influence that video games had after that. I mean, there weren't many
it also had
boss
bosses
battles
with gimmicks.
Yeah, there weren't many boss battles in early video games. Maybe at the end of a sequence, like a screen sequence on an older title, but like bad guys with personalities, bosses with personalities that were radically different from each other, didn't really happen until the NES era, and like the original Metal Gear, like every bad guy was radically different. Like every boss battle was radically different than the last. Oh yeah, absolutely. So in that way, there was a heavy like Kojima's style, like really came out of the bag like really fully formed. Like he knew he wanted to reference movies and other pop culture things. He knew he wanted to have personalities in his titles, and he knew he wanted to have like storylines. So I think it's really cool that you can even trace that back to his earliest games. I mean, Metal Gear, I think, is like his second or third game, and it's certainly the first game that he ever was the head of. So it's really neat going back to it. So and it's still very playable.
I was gonna say Metal Gear 2 in particular was very ahead of its time. Like Metal Gear Solid 1 is
basically
pretty much
a remake,
a straight up remake of that game, except like it is a sequel. It takes place after, and the bosses are different, but there are so many things that are the same. Like,
there's even the elevator sequence.
Yep. There's you lose your equipment and then you get it back, but wait, look into your inventory. There's a bomb in your bag. Get rid of that. Like, they pull that shenanigan. I think you even get you can get ranked up into Big Boss. Like when you beat the game, like you're not allowed to get spotted by or have an alarm go off except for this many times. There's a lot of tropes that get referenced later, like the codec conversations that you can.
Codec conversations were there from the very beginning. They were called radio transmissions, but I mean, they were there from the very first game.
Yeah, it's great.
And the fact that you had to find, the frequencies to contact these characters as well.
Yep. Smoking had an actual like effect
function. Yeah, a function.
I think in the original Metal Gear Solid, its use was really obscure. Like at the very end of the game, there's a countdown when you have to escape from the base after you kill the bad guy, and the timer's counting down really rapidly. If you smoke, I think you just consume your cigarettes, but the timer resets. It's like you slow down time because you kind of just cooled off. It was pretty clever.
Well, I think even in the early games it revealed lasers. I'm not sure how early that was, but
I don't remember when it started, but it was certainly in Metal Gear Solid 1.
Yeah, absolutely. So, they even did it in Ghost Babel as well, which is the Game Boy Color one.
Yeah, it's not. By the way, for the record, it's not officially called Ghost Babel. It's just that it's called Metal Gear Solid, but there already is a Metal Gear Solid, so people call it Ghost Babel because GB Game Boy.
It's like calling the Resident Evil remake. Everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's called Resident Evil. It's like calling Castlevania 64. It's just called Castlevania, but come on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Doom 2016 is just called Doom, but I'm not going to call it Doom. Because Doom is something else.
Yep.
Or how about this? Danny McBride's Halloween is a sequel to the movie Halloween.
Okay. Not Halloween 2, though. That's a different sequel.
No, and there are two of those.
Yeah.
There are 3 movies called Halloween, and the third Halloween is a sequel to the first one, not the second one.
Oh yeah, and the second one, not that second one, but the other second one was the Rob Zombie one, right?
Yes, exactly.
Oh my god.
Exactly. That'll blow your mind. Actually, the new Halloween movie, the Danny McBride one, is quite good.
Was that the one with grizzled Sarah Connor, Jamie Lee Curtis?
Yes, that's the point.
That's great.
That's what he was like. I'm going to fix this series by making Jamie Lee Curtis into Sarah Connor, and he did.
Yep.
This is a great take on it. And there are 2 more movies coming out in that series, so it'll be great. Danny McBride's been really pumping out some good material lately. But anyway, I've been watching his Righteous Gemstones on
Remember that time
on HBO.
he was a piece of human garbage on This Is the End?
He's a piece of human garbage in everything he's in.
That's hysterical.
That is the character he plays in everything. He's just like the Danny McBride archetype.
That's great.
And he's at home in it, and he revels in it. But he also went into this just to make movies, and
sure.
He didn't expect to be an actor. He was just an actor in his first thing because that's who he could afford was himself.
Yeah.
So he went from there, but man, his shows it starts with Eastbound and Down and then goes to Vice Principals, and then now to Righteous Gemstones, but they're each basically the same show. It's like Danny McBride is a piece of shit, but he's in a new situation.
That's amazing.
So the first one, he's like a retired baseball player who's a piece of shit who needs to learn how to function in the real world after being a famous athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And Vice Principals, he's a slacker asshole vice principal.
Yeah.
And in Righteous Gemstones, he's like, part of a Joel Osteen like family, but he's also a piece of shit Danny McBride at the same time. So he has to hide his true nature to his congregation. It's really good. It's a good show. You should check it out. But anyway, moving on from that. So longtime fans of your channel and my output as well will know that we also did some of his earlier titles, Snatcher and Police Knots.
Yes.
These were Hideo Kojima's visual novels. So Snatcher was originally on the PC-88, was it?
I think so. Snatcher was on like everything when it came out. I mean, in America it was only the Sega CD, but in Japan it was on like everything available.
Yeah, and it's his homage to a lot of classic like sci-fi stuff, including
mainly Blade Runner
and Terminator and Revenge.
Terminator,
the Body Snatchers.
Kind of. I mean, with the skeletons, but mostly Blade Runner.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers as well.
The name Snatcher, that's true. It's right there.
There's even a little bit of Alien in there, more so in Police Knots, but
I don't really remember in Snatcher, but it was certainly in Police Knots with the weird blood.
Yeah, for sure. But it's the PC-88 was the original version of it.
And it was on MSX.
It was on MSX.
I think it was on PC-98. It was the latest stuff was like Saturn and PS1, and I think PC Engine.
Yeah, I think the latest one that he made was the PlayStation version of it, but I don't recommend that version because they take away a lot of the beautiful pixel art. I actually think that I would actually recommend the Sega CD one, the one that we actually got in America, above all other ones. It's a little censored, but not by much.
Yeah.
And in some instances, I'm glad for the censorship, but Kojima is a little on the pervy side, more than a little. Yeah. More than a little.
Yeah.
But these games are
one game he made where you can't ogle a girl. Metal Gear 1 and 2 don't count because the technology couldn't support it.
Antarctic Adventure.
All right.
PT, because why would you want to?
Yeah, I don't even know if that really counts. Fair enough, you got me.
But I really love these games. I play Snatcher almost on an annual basis because it's more like reading a good book or watching a good movie over again. I've played this game twice with you, alone.
That's true. Yeah, once to actually show me, and the second time to Let's Play.
Yeah, and it's a quick play. It's not too bad. What is it?
Yeah, well, the only thing is though is that everything is, well, not everything. A lot of things are voiced.
Yeah.
So and voiced stuff is unskippable. So when you're doing the whole scanning to see if he's a snatcher, if you're playing the game again, you're just gonna kind of have to sit through that.
Yeah, I really love the twists and turns in this series. It's Snatcher is very, very well paced. I love it. There's kind of an info dump kind of thing, at the end of the game, mostly because I think he made that the last bit of the game quickly in order to actually finish it, because in the original version it didn't have that third chapter, and it took forever for him to come out with the final
and
chapter.
that is another thing, by the way. When you finally get to the end and you learn everything, that's a lot of unskippable dialogue.
Yeah, I mean, but at that point you want to know that stuff,
That's basically endgame anyway. But yeah, again, if you're on a second playthrough, you're just gonna wait.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on a second playthrough, you're wanting to experience the story again. You're not really just trying to beat it. This isn't a game that
it's not
beat.
I need to practice my gamer skills. The only time that ever comes up is when you have to shoot the shooting sequences, but those are usually not that hard.
Yeah, and even back then, he was experimenting with breaking the fourth wall and things like that. And
one of my favorite jokes in that entire game is when you enter the abandoned warehouse factory thing, and you're looking for snatchers, and you're listening for like a little beep on your radar to go off, and it just straight up tells you like turn up the volume on your TV like to hear the beep better, and you're like, thanks video games. But then like when you finally find snatchers and everything, and this bomb goes off, like it's a loud explosion, and Gillian says something like, wow, that was louder than I thought it would be, or whatever, and Metal Gear's like, that's because you didn't turn your TV volume back down. And I was like, oh shit, they got me. That was fantastic.
One of my favorite things is in with interviews with him later on, I think he said that he originally wanted to have a clue, like one of the clues be on the actual disc of the game, and you would need to put like the actual disc like in the refrigerator in order to get like the clue to show up.
Yeah, or in your computer where the heat would get something to show up.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the thing is, in a way, he got his wish twice. Once is like the meta stuff on the back of the box and everything. That's like Metal Gear Solid 1 with the codec.
Sure.
Because they never tell you Meryl's codec number, ever.
Nope.
And in every single release of that game, it's on the back of the box in some way. Even on like the PS2 collection where it's like, it has 3 games on it. Like, the Metal Gear Solid 1 picture is that. But also, more literally, the hot-cold key, where you have to go into a hot environment to turn into a different key, that's a Metal Gear Solid 1.
That's specifically referencing what he wanted to do with Snatcher originally.
Yeah, that's like a key card in the video game. You don't have to take the PS1 disc or anything, but like that's basically the idea.
Yeah, I really love this game. It's a lot of fun. Actually, of course...
Something just occurred to me, because I don't know if this is anything, but it seems like a Kojima thing to do. You know how, like, for Castlevania, for example, Symphony of the Night, if you put the PS1 disc into the PC, you'll get, like, Easter egg stuff?
Sure.
Did Kojima do that? Because that seems like...
I don't remember anything like that, but it's possible.
Maybe not, but that just, like... It seems like something he would do, like with that and Police Knots.
Yeah, no, I definitely see where that could have been a possibility, like something
like,
he would have done.
What are you doing with this on your computer? Like Metal Gear Solid 4 did that. There's a part where Otacon goes, Snake, it's time to change discs, and I'm like, what? There's only one disc? Because the Metal Gear Solid 4 was a relatively early PS3 game, early-ish. And I was like, what? And then he's like, oh, wait, no, sorry, I forgot. You're playing on Blu-ray. Those can hold so much more memory than standard CDs and DVDs could. And Snake's like, damn it, Otacon. Like, it's amazing. That really scared us, too. When I was playing with Luminaire, we were like, I don't see a disc 2. Like, oh, this is bad. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I really love his like, fourth wall breaking. I mean, some people... criticize it now, but like back in the day, no video game really ever referenced
Psycho
it.
Mantis melted people's minds back in the day. You know what I also liked was when Psycho Mantis goes, "Put your controller on the ground. I will demonstrate my power." And it's great because like Snake looks directly at the camera and nods. It's like, yes, we're not messing with you. You can do this. It was fantastic.
I love it when you don't have any rumble, like when your controller.
PS3.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a part that calls back to that on PS3. That blew my mind because again, we were playing this relatively early in the PS3's life, so the old controllers didn't come with rumble support. Like, I don't know why PS1 and 2 controllers had that. PS3 just didn't at launch.
They were engaged in a lawsuit at the time with the person who invented like the rumble technology.
So it's great because he's like, I will now move your controllers with my mind. And like Luminaire was just like, crap, like my controller doesn't have rumble, so we're just going to miss out on this. But then nothing happens, and he goes like, no rumble! And it was fantastic. Like, it's like Metal Gear Solid 1 calls out like old technology as well. If you're playing with like mono audio, the game knows. And it'd be like, wow, it's really cool that you're going old school. It's unbelievable.
That's cute. That's funny. I love that stuff, and like nowadays it's a lot more common. You know, it's just like we're in a video game. You know, like a lot of other games. But back when he was doing it was like a very unusual thing.
Well, not only that, but like we were describing, he broke the fourth wall in ways that you didn't expect. Like like he makes your like he has your controller rumble on cue and not when you take damage, or like he reads your damn memory card. Like before you realize what that was, just the idea of Psycho Mantis going, oh, I see you've played Castlevania, and you're like, oh shit, really? Like when you don't see it coming at all, it really is like, how does he know? It's fantastic the first time.
So moving on from that, we did do a Let's Play of Snatcher's spiritual successor, which is called Police Knots.
Yeah.
This was like a holy grail title for the like fan translation community. This had been worked on for many years because of the amount of work that they needed to put into it to get it to work, and to translate it and all that. It was like a wealth of content in it, and just a tough game for people to crack. And this game is good. I when I played it, I really enjoyed it. In fact, Meryl's is a character from Police Knots first.
Yeah, what's funny is that Meryl from Police Knots and Meryl from Metal Gear Solid are like patches from Demon Souls and patches from Dark Souls.
Yeah.
They're totally the same exact
not
character,
canonically the
except
same
they're
character.
not. Like
Yeah.
they look and sound and act exactly alike, but they're not the same character.
It's like another, like an actor in a game, kind of like Lara
Yeah.
from like D or Enemy Zero or D2. They're not like connected.
That's a reference people will understand.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like they're like the same character, but in a different situation, and have no memory of like.
Yeah, well, no, it's like the really old 1930s and 40s cartoons, like Mickey Mouse in Steamboat Willie.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse, now he's a ship captain. Now he's a chef. Like, whatever. Just put him in there.
Exactly, but with Police Knots, this one's pretty fun. I enjoyed it quite a bit as well. This has a lot of references to other like cyberpunky kind of stuff as well.
Yeah.
It has some references to Snow Crash of all things.
That's pretty crazy. But
Yeah.
its most obvious reference, though, like you were saying, Snatcher has a bunch of references, but it's mostly Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Police Knots is mostly Lethal Weapon.
Mostly Lethal Weapon and Alien combined.
I don't even know if it's mostly Alien, but there's definitely...
There's a lot of Alien stuff in it.
There's a bunch.
Yeah. Just like the White Blood, I guess, mainly.
That's really all I can think of.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a recurring thing in the game, but it's not like, look at all the Alien references. I would say, like, Lethal Weapon is everywhere. What's cool is that the White Blood, you had pointed this out to me, I didn't even think about it, was brought back in Metal Gear Solid 4 when Raiden's coughing up his, like, silver blood. I was like, oh, that was a Police Knots thing this whole time. It's just like how Metal Gear Mark II, your little Metal Gear buddy in Metal Gear Solid 4 is actually from Snatcher, the cute little helper guy.
Yeah, and also the scientist, from Metal Gear and from this, like, random, from Snatcher, Modnar, he ends up being a major character in Metal Gear Solid 4, I think.
I don't remember that.
He puts back together, Raiden. He's the
Oh, that was him?
scientist that puts them back together. Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's been a while. I only played the game the one time. That's crazy.
Yeah. So a lot of his games have references to each other in them. Even in Metal Gear Solid 5's like prologue, the Phantom Pain's prologue. What's that called again?
Ground Zeroes.
Ground Zeroes actually has like some special like references to Snatcher and
well, there's a whole Snatcher mission.
There's a whole Snatcher mission.
You have to kill only the right kind of enemies, so you turn on your like Arkham Asylum detective vision, and the guys that are glowing green are like the ones you need to kill. What really got me though was that they had a cover of a Snatcher music track. Like when you're doing your investigations, that like doo doo doo, like that thing. I was like, oh no way!
That the music in Snatcher is so phenomenal. I love it so much.
But I love stuff. Yes, but I love stuff like that though, because like a lot of his references are stuff like Japanese people would have been all over Snatcher. Like again, it was on every system, but for Americans, that's super obscure, so they might not have known about the music.
Only like 4,000 copies of that game were ever made.
Yeah, but it just makes me think of, you know how when you first turn on Metal Gear Solid for the PS1, you hear like do 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 do, and you're like, oh, what a quirky opening, and it turns out that's the first 6 notes of the full like Police Knots opening theme. It was a Police Knots reference the whole time, and we had no idea.
Yeah,
same goes for Otacon.
Even Metal Gear Solid has like a direct Police Knots reference. Like it's Otacon.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. Yeah,
like,
this is like one of my Japanese animes, and it's Police Knots, and we're like, we didn't know about Police Knots. We're like, what anime series is this? And Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes updated his Japanese anime was one of the anime cutscenes from Zone of the Enders 2.
Yeah. I actually was gonna talk about that as well.
Those games are great.
Yeah. Let me see. I want to move on and get to some of the more obscure games like that. Like because Metal Gear, chances are, if you're interested in Kojima at all, you know Metal Gear. Like Metal Gear is what he's known for.
Even if you haven't played Metal Gear 1 and 2, which I actually haven't, but like you kind of know about him at least.
Yeah, I mean, Metal Gear Solid 1 is one of the most popular games for the original PlayStation. One of the most iconic consoles ever. I mean, Metal Gear Solid 2 again.
2 was maybe the most meta Kojima's ever been.
Yeah, to the point where it turned
people
people off at the time, but now people are realizing how smart it was.
Even toward the end of the game, like, maybe you should take a break. Why don't you just turn the game off? Like, what?
But before we move on to some of the other titles, I did want to mention the Boktai series. This is one that kind of gets overlooked. There are what, like 4 entries to the series.
I had no idea. I thought there were only like 2.
Okay, so the first 2 games we got on Game Boy Advance, and then the third game didn't come out here. It was Japan only.
Okay.
The 4th game was for the DS. It was called Lunar Nights. So there are 4 games in the series. So this was an interesting series. Like we talked about breaking the fourth wall in interesting ways. Boktai did this in spades. It had a special solar sensor on the cartridge itself. So that when you fought vampires in this game, and when you were outside and playing your Game Boy Advance, you would actually like have a much easier time fighting the vampires and other dark enemies if you were outside and the cartridge actually sensed it.
You know what that almost makes me think of? Like a very oddly specific version of what Pokemon Go was trying to do and like get its players outside.
Yeah. And it's actually kind of funny. He references like the original Western classic, the spaghetti Western classic Django, way before like Quentin Tarantino ever did.
That's amazing. Kojima really, like, the funny thing is everyone knows Kojima as the Metal Gear Solid guy, and he's got this whole library of games, but the funny thing is, even though he's a game developer, I still think he's a movie aficionado first.
Oh yeah, 100%. In fact, it's the thing he tweets most about, unless he's like has something specific coming out.
Yeah, I remember seeing a vlog of his talking about this was the year when Leonardo DiCaprio won the Oscar for The Revenant, and it's just kind of funny to see Kojima talking about that. Like, oh, cool, Leo finally won his Oscar. But I remember what he was talking about was he like saw Mad Max Fury Road in the theater like 14 times.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
damn.
Well, the funny thing is, like, his taste in movies is very much like he just wants to be entertained and see something interesting. So like he
loves 2001.
He might like a movie that you might not think is the best movie around, but he sees something in it that you just like that is a little bit different than most people.
Well, yeah, he likes movies the way we like video games. Like, if Suda51 ever made a movie, Kojima would probably be his #1 fan.
Yeah, he loves like RoboCop and like he loves action movies above all else. So like,
but again, one of his favorites I think is 2001.
Yeah, I mean 2001 is my favorite movie, so I'm right there.
And he references that movie. I mean, he really he just straight up talks about it. Like he just has two characters directly saying how great it is.
Hal and David
in Peace Walker.
Hal and David. I mean,
well, yeah, Hal is Otta Khan's real name, and David is Snake's real name.
Yeah,
but in Peace Walker, he just has Dr. Strangelove, which by the way
is a different movie, but
that's a reference by itself. Dr. Strangelove is talking to
Kubrick movie.
Whoever, I forgot what his name is. Yeah, Huey.
Huey.
They're just
Otta
gushing
Khan's father.
Yeah, they're just straight up gushing about 2001, just like directly. Like, what a great movie 2001 was. It's like, all right.
Yeah, I mean, even in Metal Gear Solid 3, they have like a discussion about Godzilla. They have discussions about Godzilla and James Bond movies. Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if they made 20 James Bond movies, which was like a funny joke at the time because that was when like Die Another Day came out. That was the 20th one. So it's like, hey.
Well, not only that, but like Snake Eater was had a lot of James Bond references just
the
because it
opening
takes
theme
place
is
in that
basically
era.
a James Bond theme.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the whole Snake Eater song. Also, when Zero's gushing about Bond movies, he's just coming up with like stupid Bond gadgets that would be cool. Like, wouldn't it be cool if we had like a snake gun? It'd be amazing. You could look like you're fighting or wrestling with a great snake, but then suddenly, like, you turn on an enemy and shoot him, and you're like, what? What are you talking about? Like, it's great.
But yeah, getting back to Boktai, those games were pretty fun. But of course, there's the inherent annoyance of having to play the game that way.
Yeah.
Like it's a cool idea, but like I'm an adult. Do I really want to go outside like on a fall chilly day and play my GBA?
That's the thing. Yeah. What if I just felt like playing Boktai in winter? It's like, oops, a bad time
Or
of
at
year to be
night when I
playing
have
Boktai.
fucking free time.
Yeah, anytime it's raining.
So luckily there are fan patches that kind of rectify that. So I mean,
That's incredible.
yeah. So I think there's a fan translation of the third game as well.
Nice.
So it is very much it has sneaking elements, and it definitely feels like a 2D Metal Gear game, because you could definitely like sidle up against walls and sneak as well in those games. So it definitely feels like a Kojima game for sure. Next one up is Zone of the Enders. So the first
there
one,
are 3 of those.
yes. So there ended up being like and an anime as well.
Yeah.
The first one kind of was an experiment for him, and
Yeah.
also was a very short game. I think it's like 2 hours long, something crazy like that.
If you don't feel like doing side stuff, the game is incredibly short.
Yeah, I remember playing it back in the day. I bought it after it had long come out because I heard about the reviews on it. It is a very ambitious game, but it was just didn't have enough content.
I think everybody bought the game back in the day because it had the Metal Gear Solid 2 demo.
Yeah, that's very true.
By the way, that demo disc was fucking great. It was whole freighter level. Like, after playing Metal Gear Solid 1, you're like, oh, a sequel? And nobody was ready for how cool that sequel was. You could stuff enemies in lockers. It was unreal.
I mean, he basically sold 2 demos for a full price game as like a full price game there.
That's true, actually.
Which is pretty cool in itself. But very few people can do that. Like, he had the star power to do that after the first Metal Gear Solid. Everybody loved that game, and it was one of the biggest selling games on the system. I think it's like the 5th biggest selling game on the system, something like that.
Speaking of the first Metal Gear Solid as compared to the rest, if you're looking for it, you may notice that Metal Gear Solid 1 has a different soundtrack style than all the other Metal Gear Solid games. Do you know why?
Why is that?
It's not about Metal Gear Solid 1. It's about the rest. Have you ever seen the movie The Replacement Killers?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember its
Keanu
soundtrack
Reeves?
At all?
Is that a
No, not Keanu Reeves. Not Keanu Reeves. He was in a movie like The Replacements or something.
Yeah.
The Replacement Killers.
No, I've heard about this movie, but I've never seen it.
It's an alright action movie. Like, it's nothing you have to jump out of your seat to see, but like, it's fun. It's pretty good. But listen to the soundtrack. It just is Metal Gear Solid 2 and onward soundtrack. Like, it does that like the dun 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 dun, like that kind of music, that like dun dun dun, like that sort of soundtrack.
Well,
Kojima watched that movie,
falls in love with certain movies. Like, he just
but he watched that movie, loved the soundtrack, contacted the composer, and he was like, "Can you make music for like my Metal Gear Solid games? Seriously." Go to YouTube, look up any given track on the Replacement Killer soundtrack, and you'll swear it ripped off of Metal Gear Solid 2, but it was like the other way around. Metal Gear Solid 2 came after. It's
That's
unbelievable.
Awesome.
It's like, it's definitely that composer style. It's fantastic. So like, if like, I watched Replacement Killers like early, so I didn't pick up on that. But like, if you're a Metal Gear Solid fan and you've never seen Replacement Killers before and you turn it on for the first time, like, that soundtrack will distract you at this point. It'll be like, whoa, what is this?
Well, continuing on with Zone of the Enders, the second game is really where it's at here with this series. The second game is leaps and bounds above the first game. It is an excellent classic title for the PlayStation 2, and
amazing.
They've remade it twice at this point.
Yeah, there was the Zone of the Enders 1 and 2 collection on PS3 and 360, which, by the way, had a unique anime opening animation.
Oh, cool!
By Sunrise Studios. It kind of covers
Sunrise
both games.
Is great. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous looking opening, and Zone of the Enders 2 by itself was remade again for the PS4 with VR support.
Yeah, additional VR stuff on top of.
Considering how that game plays in Endgame, I have no idea how you would do that in VR. Like, everything is fast and disorienting when you're not in VR.
I think the VR content is unique.
Okay, because I was gonna say, like, Endgame, when you're like warping, like, it is insane. Like, that is probably about the closest I've seen to a game actually capturing anime speed, except for maybe Dragon Ball FighterZ.
Yeah, this game I think has unique VR content in addition to the original content. So
okay.
I think that's what's up with that. They did the same thing with the the newest Ace Combat game 7. They have like VR specific missions and content. So which I think that's the way to do it. I mean, that's a cool unique experience there.
Yeah.
And before he left, he also like produced. I don't think he directed this, but he produced the Castlevania Lords of Shadow games.
Oh yeah.
And you could definitely tell it has his influences, especially with the way that the first game ended. Is a very Kojima thing to do. So
goodbye, Mr. President. What?
So he's very much known for his cliffhanger endings and like weird twists. I'm not spoiling anything, and plus Castlevania's pretty dead at this point. But at the end of Castlevania Lords of Shadow, the original, you actually find out that you are Dracula.
Oh shit.
Yeah, you become Dracula in it. So
that's a legit twist.
Yeah. Pretty cool stuff there.
Dracula's already been killed. When? About 100 years ago? What the hell?
So that's of course referencing the end of 2, right?
Yes.
Metal Gear Solid 2. So
that was a twist.
Yeah. I the biggest twists of the Metal Gear franchise are actually like hidden in like the supplemental materials, like that you have to look up on your own, not in the actual like cinemas. Like the actual bad guy of the series you never fight.
Yeah.
Like he's an old man that you have no control over. Like, and he's always in the shadows, which is Major Zero at the like you interact with him in 3, and he dies at the end of 4. So I mean, and you never interact with him at all. Like physically. And some of like the biggest revelations like that what's his name, Revolver Ocelot is actually like basically the main character of the series.
Revolver
and you didn't know
Ocelot is like what, like a septuple crosser? It's fucking crazy.
So yeah, he's like a triple agent.
I don't even know if he knows what side he's on.
Yeah, he's on his own. He's on his own side. So, the entire series actually is revealed to be the battle between two people that really loved the boss. Who took her vision of a world where mercenaries weren't taken advantage of by their respective countries. And they both took the meaning of that in two wildly desperate interpretations, and ended up warring with each other over it. And that's Major Zero and Big Boss, aka Naked Snake. So it's really interesting. And I believe there's a third person taking her vision into his hands, and that's Revolver Ocelot, which turns out to be her son.
There's so much weird shit going on,
and you never find that out until you read some really obscure like data logs. in the game, and that is an important point to get if you want to understand the story, the series at all. It's just really interesting. But moving on from that, I also wanted to do a shout out to PT here for the game that teasing the game that never was, Silent Hills.
Yeah.
This is one of the best horror experiences in video game history, and it's a fucking demo.
Well, for what it was, as a surprise, like playing the game again, it's like, okay, but if you're going in completely blind and you know nothing of it, it will freak you out.
I screamed multiple times while playing this game, and I didn't look up a guide at first until the very end, because I wanted to complete it.
Impossible without a guide.
Yeah, but the last revolution, but my heart was pounding the entire time when I was playing this blind.
Yeah, the game just makes you so uncomfortable. Just even the first revolution, like when you didn't do the thing to trigger the second revolution, just when you open the door and you're just back.
Yeah,
and the whole game is gonna be here, isn't it?
So I should describe a little bit better about what this game was. It was a playable teaser that came out to tease a Silent Hill project that he was working on with Guillermo del Toro and Norman Reedus.
And apparently, by the way, they never really went anywhere with it, but Junji Ito was apparently going to do some design, like enemy design.
Yeah, so what it does is it puts you at the beginning of a loop of going through the same hallway over and over and over again. And each time the hallway is a little bit different as you progress it. And each time you do it, like there is like jump scares of a character named Lisa in it that is basically haunting you, and all this crazy stuff happening over the phone and over the radio that's in this hallway as well. All this crazy stuff you hear about, like fathers going crazy and killing their families. Really nutty stuff, and it is creepy as shit. And there's a lot of weird stuff going on. There's like stuff that pops up in Swedish out of nowhere, like just craziness, and it's really, really creepy. And it plays with the your expectation of what the loop is going to be like a lot. There's all kinds of crazy stuff that is very hard to explain or needs to be interpreted. And it is a really great experience. It's such a shame that it is not available for general consumption right now.
Yeah.
It is one of the things that got delisted that is a fucking crying shame, because it literally is one of the best horror experiences that I've ever played. It's just genuinely enthralling, like worthy of your time, and like something new for the time, and it like the actual game that they were going to be working on probably wouldn't have been anything like it either. It would have been like a unique thing.
They made that clear multiple times, is that PT is not representative of Silent Hills. It's just that like it's to get you interested in playing through it and then seeing the actual trailer for Silent Hills, which by the way looks scary as hell by itself.
Yeah, and upon leaving Konami after barely finishing Metal Gear Solid 5, yeah. He really didn't finish it, if you ask me. There's a lot of content that just should have been in that game that just wasn't, and it's a really big shame. Like the last portion of the game is like repeat missions, unfortunately, and the last chapter of the game, was given only to limited editions of the game, and it was unfinished.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's terrible. But and there's some important stuff to like the series lore in there. It's really a big shame. But anyway, there are some people that suspect that he never intended to make Silent Hills. Like it was all kind of like part of an elaborate
Or
ruse.
like a meta tease for Death Stranding.
Exactly.
Because all of a sudden, wait a minute, he is working with Norman Reedus on this.
Yeah, and Guillermo del Toro is in Death Stranding as a character.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like they did like motion capture for him and all that. So and also Jeff Keighley from the Video Game Awards is in
Wow.
Death Stranding. Like it's really crazy. To this point, I don't think many people actually know what you're going to be doing in Death Stranding,
Yeah.
which is part of its appeal to me. I think the way that it's going to go, I don't know what you think about this, Lotus, but I think it might be one of those acquired taste games, and people are going to be very excited for it, but then there's going to be a large contingent of people that were disappointed.
Well, the thing is, no matter what the game is, it's not living up to the mysticism or the mystique that its trailers have been.
Yeah, but I'm willing to play it either way because it's a weird Hideo Kojima game.
No, I'd play it, but like those trailers are freaking outrageous.
Yeah, I can't wait to play it, and
by the way,
I've been so excited about it.
Speaking of teasers for this game, I've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn lately, and I have learned like a few weeks ago that there were teasers for Death Stranding in Horizon Zero Dawn, which is interesting by itself.
Some of those came out before he left Konami, I think.
Yeah, like they were teasing this way early. There are 3 items that are called Stranded This and Stranded That. Like Stranded Necklace, I think, Stranded Shackles, and Stranded, I forgot if it was Figure or Doll or something. I don't know the significance of the necklace and the shackles, but the Stranded Doll or figure is described as looking like a small baby, and that makes me think of the little baby in the jar, like in Death Stranding. So That's kind of cool. Also, there's a merchant that only gives you an item if you give him all 3 stranded items. I have not yet done that, but I'm curious to see what that turns into.
Well, I'm super excited about it. I mean, this is going to date the podcast because, of course, we're not. There's no way we could predict what's going to be in this game because it could be literally anything. But apparently they're putting in an easy mode into the game so you could just enjoy it as kind of a cinematic experience, which I actually think that's pretty cool.
Probably the easiest mode I've seen is like Metal Gear Solid 3's easy mode.
Oh, where you just basically put people to sleep like with a single.
Yeah, they give you
bullet.
the easy gun, which is a tranquilizer, which is not otherwise in the game. It has a laser sight, which is not otherwise in the game. It has infinite ammo. Your camouflage is always like 70 or 80% or something. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah. I think it's...
Oh, and you could see enemies' eye cones like in the older Metal Gear Solid games, because that was the gimmick of 3, is that you couldn't do that with radar because the technology didn't exist.
Well, I am really looking forward to whatever it ends up being. I don't think I'm going to be disappointed because I think it's just going to be interesting no matter what it is.
I wonder if it's going to shout out Horizon. Like, both games
Sure.
appear to be post-apocalyptic as well.
I mean, and they're made by the same company, Guerrilla Games. So
there you go.
I mean, this is going to be a lot of fun. I find it very difficult that I'm not going to at least like the experience of the whole thing, of opening it and finding out what it's all about and all that other stuff.
Yeah, just learning what you're even doing is going to be like one of the most fun parts of the game, I think. Like, finally, I have Death Stranding. Like, what is it?
Yeah, I might even sequester myself from like Twitter and other venues
yeah, I'm gonna try
while
to
I'm
avoid
playing
discussion about it.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Like, everyone was saying don't spoil the end of Avengers Endgame. Like, don't spoil anything. Like the beginning of Death Stranding.
I don't even want to know anything about it. I don't want to know what the gameplay is like. The whole thing is spoilers for me. So I'm gonna play it right away when it comes out. That's unusual. I hardly ever do that. I've done that with a couple things lately, like with Zelda, I played that right away, but that's just because I'm very comfortable with that game and I think I could beat it pretty soon. But this is going to be something that I want to be part of, like the communal experience of finding out what the shit this is. And I'm willing to believe that there's going to be tons of secret stuff in it because that's just the way he is.
Yeah, Kojima has Easter eggs all the time.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be all kinds of references to past stuff. in there. But I wanted to make sure that we touched on everything a little bit. But we do have some fan stuff here. Unless you want to quickly shout out anything else before we move on.
Yeah, real quick. I don't know if we'll have time for the question at this point, but I'll go through the comments.
Sure, please do.
So, yeah, Fakafan said, yeah, I can easily understand why switching between the torch and the gun, this is regarding Doom 3, so the flashlight and the gun, could be annoying. On a purely technical level, it's as Vice said, there's no enemies when you need the torch. But that also means the torch serves, like, no purpose? Yeah, it's only for really navigating, like, the pitch black areas that you just have to wind your way through. And as a player, it's just annoying to not have a weapon and a light at the same time. Switching between, hey, I can see, and hey, I can shoot, never appealed to anyone in a shooter. Also, it makes the main character look really inept. Yeah, military guys don't have a freaking, like, breast pocket flashlight. Old sports games from, like, PS2 eras used to kick so much ass, dude. Yeah, that is true. Like, I forgot this might have been N64. This might have been a little early, but, like, NBA, like, Hang Time, I think it was. I forgot if that was GameCube or 64, but that was a cool one. You could do, like, double dunks, like, have two characters interact with each other to do a dunk. NBA Street was also kick-ass, where you would, like, chuck the ball underhand at the backboard so it bounces off, and then you catch your own ricochet and dunk it. You'd be like, serving it up! It's served! It was freaking amazing.
I really want to get like the Mario infused EA games from that era, because like NBA Street was one of those, SSX World Tour was another, and Fight Night Round 2 I think is the other one, where they put like Nintendo characters in the GameCube versions of those. That was pretty cool stuff.
Speaking of Mario, by the way, do you remember Mario Strikers, the soccer game?
Oh sure, yeah. That
is damn good soundtrack.
Yeah, and the Wii game's even better, if you ask me. Good stuff. And if you like that, you should check out the predecessor to that. Before Next Level made those two games, they made a Sega Soccer Slam, which is very similar, but stars like luchadors, which is a lot of fun. Yeah.
And Fakafan wraps up with, "Hey, hotshots, is Quebec a city or a province? Huh? Riddle me that, you friggin'..." Yeah, I forgot if we said this or not. We might have said Quebec was a city or something, but no, it is one of Canada's 13 provinces. Blew it. Dracologist says, "Isn't Sega from Hawaii?" Yeah, like when I looked this up, when I went to Japan, like as service games, like you said, but in Hawaii it was like standard games or something like that. It was like coin-op machines. So there we go.
Yeah, I didn't even know that part of their history.
Yeah, that's nuts. And Dracologist also says, Doom 2 is nice, though once you go Brutal Doom, you will have trouble going back. As for Doom 4, or Doom 2016, same game, the main gameplay is more like Painkiller, with small hints of DMC. I can kind of see that. It's arena-based combat. Not sure I have any genre I don't like, but I do have something, but have something in it I like. Does that make any sense? Mm-hmm. And then Charles Craig says, you should check out the huge collection of mods for Doom and Doom 2. Yeah, he also brings up Brutal Doom.
Brutal Doom is pretty fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah, haven't gone back to the vanilla game. Make sure you get the remade soundtracks to go along with it. And Brutal Doom might get some hate in some circles online, but it really takes Doom to a whole new level and makes it the best game of its kind, including anything in the modern era of games. Yeah,
I love Brutal Doom, actually.
Yeah, we've mentioned this before, but even vanilla Doom, like, those games aged surprisingly well.
Yes.
Sabrina Hengel says, I'm really looking forward to AI Somnium Files. And this is like a two-part post. She says, the only thing that irks me is that it's supposed to come out the 23rd of December in Europe, I think. However, none of the stores I asked said they know anything about it, and even PSN had it up for pre-order for like a day, then it was gone. But then the addendum is, turns out it's fine in the PSN store, after all, and therefore I picked it up. Weird how it disappeared for like 2 days. Huh. Makes me wonder if something was wrong on my end, or the stores.
Seriously.
Actually, I did go through the comments faster than I thought. I think we can do a question real quick.
Yeah, sure.
So, Fakafon asks, what are some mechanics you enjoy that allow quick empowerment for the player? For example, in Gears of War, if you do a perfect reload, it'll make your next clip's bullets stronger.
That. Yeah, that's really cool.
And in Mario, this is what I remember. In Mario RPG and FF8, if you like press the attack button right when you hit, it'll make the attacks a little stronger. We're not counting like mushrooms or pickups for power-ups. It's more like mechanical things like that, where if you do it right, then you get a benefit. This isn't even my favorite game. I've only played it once, but Vanquish had an amusing little thing where there are weapon crates all over Vanquish. So you could swap out, because you have a 2-weapon loadout, I think, and you could swap out one weapon for another. But if you pick up the same gun that you currently have equipped, and the gun that you currently have equipped has full ammo, then you, like, level that gun up. So, like, that's kind of cool.
I like in Crypt of the Necrodancer, as you're playing, and the Cadence of Hyrule to go along with it, as you're playing and you really have a combo going with the beat, the feel of that is, like, incredible.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's kind of... This isn't really the same thing. This isn't really a valid answer, but it almost makes me think of the Arkham Asylum City Night games and Spider-Man PS4, where, like,
when you're in the
fighting
zone,
enemies right, you really get into a zone. And when you get hit, it's just kind of like, oh.
Yeah, it really knocks you out of it.
It takes your momentum out. Oh man, too bad.
Yeah.
Because you get the cool slow-mo when you finish a guy, so you're like, like all the time.
Yeah.
Other than that, quick empowerment though, I'm trying to think.
Even like something like parrying in a lot of games is like in like Dark Souls, for instance, is so satisfying.
Yeah. Well, actually, even Spider-Man, and I think Batman did this. If you perfect dodge, time slows down a little briefly.
Yeah.
So you could get some shots in. That's pretty cool.
So satisfying.
Because in Spider-Man, you could dodge or you can perfect dodge. So it's like, yeah. And you like very obviously get the perfect dodge. Like when time slows down, like you can tell. It's very nice.
Absolutely.
I don't know if there's anything else I can think of right off the bat, but
yeah,
those are quite good.
Yeah, I agree. Well,
actually, you know what? One other. This is kind of similar to what I said with Vanquish. Well, no, it really isn't. I forgot what game it was. I was going to mention Horizon, but that's not what its gimmick is at all. There was some... Oh, this is a weird game to bring up, but like Oni, there are some health pickups you can get, but if you're full health when you get them, or maybe it was if you're in your inventory when you're full and you use it, I forgot. I think it's when you pick up health, though. If you're full, you'll go into like a supercharge mode.
Neat.
So there's actually a reason to pick up health when you already have all the health. Like, it's pretty great. I like stuff like that.
Real cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think we answered that pretty well. I really want to say sorry to our friends up north, especially Facaphon, for
in the city
mistake.
of Canada, or the city of Quebec.
Oh, jeez. Well, it's a good thing nobody gets that screwed up with New York. I mean, that's just a city.
Hey, what's the capital of Vatican City?
Vatican City.
I like the Vatican so much, I bought the company?
Vatican City. We sell Vaticans. That's
Man, this
all.
is stupid. But yeah, anyway, Quebec's a province. Totally blew it.
Yeah, no, not.
I don't know if I was thinking Toronto or what, but yeah. Watch me get that wrong too. Toronto's like even more of a province. I fucked it up.
No, Toronto's a city. Come on.
Oh, thank God.
Montreal's a town. Is a city as well. So yeah.
Hooray.
But we really want to thank everybody for interacting. There's a lot of really good fan interaction here.
Yeah, and we are replete with questions now, so I very much appreciate those as well.
Still keep it up though. We like having a backlog that ensures that we keep going and we don't have to beg.
It is fun to be flush with questions.
Replete.
I like replete a little more.
Yeah. We are fat with them. Well, that is the show for this week. We want to thank all of our fans who contributed questions. Man, guys, you did a great job. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own in the YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesday on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Switch, and Battle.net.
And you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you're interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, currently doing Folklore, and recently announced 999, 9 hours, 9 persons, 9 doors.
999.
I don't get it.
9.
Oh, I see. You're referencing Inglourious Bastards.
Yes.
The trailer
that
for
very
it.
accurate historical document.
Remember that time the trailer said 999 and then it said, oh, yes, 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 and those scenes weren't anywhere near each other in the actual movie?
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks, assholes. Anyway, or getting in conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/Lotus Prince.
Okay, well, we'll catch everybody for another episode of Reactive on Tuesday. We'll catch you then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.